You can start.
Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night from whichever time zone you're joining us. Welcome to this very, very trendy session. I'm using the word trendy. Why? Because the intro music was fantastic. I was dancing out of my chair. That was awesome. So that sort of matches the style and the excitement this session is bringing. Well, the extra excitement, the extra value, the extra quality that sort of enhances the session furthermore is by the speaker that we have today with us in this session. And one and only is Brother Mohammed Kateeb. Mohammed Kateeb, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Brother Mughees. Cool. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool, looking young as ever, I'm guessing. Post-corona has made you younger, I'm guessing.
But not as colorful as you are. You're looking great.
Well, we match. It's kalfil kalb, as we say in Arabic. Cool. So now, folks who don't know Mohammed Kateeb, just Google him. Google him. He is one entity to to know about. Basically, I mean, I call people like Mohammed Kateeb as contributors. I mean, he is, of course, the current group chairman and CEO of this. I would rather now start terming it as a big tech in Islamic finance called PAT Solutions. And who doesn't know PAT Solutions? Whoever is related to Islamic finance, Omani Islamic finance industry, where I belong from, is very well versed with PAT Solutions. And I mean, it'll be like showing candle to the sun if I go into lengths and lengths of introducing Mohammed Kateeb and PAT Solutions. So basically, what I'm going to term Mohammed Kateeb, you is a contributor. Your title is going to be a contributor because you do contribute, and of course, via PAT Solution. What a beautiful team that you have. And what brilliant solutions that you're doing, very timely, not only timely, very preemptive and proactive as well, and dictating, as a matter of fact, in so many ways, the technology scenario for the Islamic financial sector. You and I are also involved in a number of other, joint activities. One of them is this one. I tell you something, there's more synergy to come. There is more synergy to come. So without further ado, folks, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm really being formal in this. You don't know about Mohammed Kateeb, Google it right now because he's somebody to know about. So, Chairman of PAT Solutions, it's an honor yet again to join the screen and join the platform. You call it screen because these days it's all online. So, and how I wish to see you in person as soon as possible. So, I wanna start with absolute basic, if that's okay with you. All right, can we start absolute basic? Can we start ground zero first and then build further?
Sure, okay. Absolutely.
All right, cool. So, contributor, what do you think? I mean, what is fintech? What is it? I mean, why fintech? I mean, people talk about technology, people talk about digitization, people talk about technology orientation. It has actually become a buzzword in the industry and even beyond the industry. You would agree with that. And even the governments are talking about technology and technology adoptions, digitization, automation, whatever name or tag you call it, it's more or less the same thing. And I have noticed it has becoming such a phenomena. People call it fintech disruption, but it's also soon catching up to be a mental disruption in so many ways. Because believe you me, you may know about fintech, you may not know about fintech, but you have to talk about fintech. See what I mean over here? This is how this is actually, engulfing the scholarly scenarios and the mass awareness campaigns and the mass mentality of the people involved too. But I want to make sure that we start this session, even though people may know what fintech is, but we don't want to take things for granted. I want to start this session by ground zero, touching the base, and ask your brilliant self, catch some of your wisdom or pearls of wisdom. What's going on? So tell us, I mean, what is it all about?
Thank you, Brother Mughees, for the kind words and the warm introduction. It's always a pleasure to be moderated by you. and as we have done this multiple times before. I'm going to go step even farther and go even more basic and say
basement parking level you're talking about.
Sorry,
you're talking about a basement parking level.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. As low as we can get, and say that the fintech is actually a child of what we call the fourth industrial revolution. And although the fourth industrial revolution was actually defined in the World Economic Forum by its chairman Klaus around 2014, I think it was 2015. The revolution started at least 12 or 13 years earlier. And it is basically, it was characterized by Klaus as the fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between the physical, the digital, and the biological spheres. It's really interesting concept that they came, I think it was one of the most interesting and exciting World Economic Forums when they actually had all those thought leaders discussing this merging between those three worlds. And then you are getting the cyber physical system. And of course, this concept only happened in human history 4 times. Imagine how exciting it is to actually be living in the times of a revolution that only happened during the humankind's 4 times. And the more exciting things for me is that this actually was driven by technology. And I'm a technologist, I'm a software engineer, and to be living in these times and this revolution, and during this revolution, in the midst of all those changes, and those changes are driven by things that are dear to my heart, which are the technologies. So as all these technologies came, 16 of them, some people say 9, some people say 10, but I believe I counted around 16 interesting technologies for the fourth industrial revolution. And they drove another revolution in our segment, or sub-revolution, I may call, it's called the fintech revolution, where basically a bunch of startups came in and tried to disrupt the financial industry. So it's disrupting the financial industries in 2 ways. You either take a service that is the bank provides and actually change the way you provide it, dropping the cost, the price, and giving a great customer experience, and you define a new service, or come up with a completely new service that was never been provided, such as the P2P, the peer-to-peer payment, which was never really existed before this revolution. The interesting thing here, Brother Mughees, is that the fintechs disrupted 3 things. They disrupted the business model, they disrupted the operational model, and the most important thing of all, it provided a customer experience that was never provided before through traditional financial services. It's really interesting that the the fintechs gave you the same feel as what you have in the social media and what the people are used to from the fun applications that they used earlier before the fintechs. This is really what happening according to E&Y. Just to give you an idea how exciting this fintech is in 2015, 16% of the people actually used fintech services. When we look at 2019, when E&Y report came out, it actually more than 64% of the people used fintech services, but 96% of the customers are aware of at least one fintech service. That shows you how within 4 years, the awareness, 96% awareness, this is an amazing revolution. And that's really what the fintech in a basic definition is.
Yeah, so this is fantastic, staggering numbers that you've just mentioned, and you've seen that when we talk about disruption, where the disruption has started from, and you've also used in your submissions that it has to mean, of course, it's only the fourth time that human race is revolutionizing itself, and what makes you more excited about this fourth revolution, which I actually call as digitization of civilization in so many ways. I mean, that is the fourth industrial revolution because of its technology aspect. It makes you so effervescent and so excited. You have used this word called coming up with something new / innovation. Now, while there are growths, while from a 15% usage to a 64% quantum leap, and while you've said that 96% of the users are actually aware of at least one fintech solution available going on in the market. Now, again, for me to really understand the phenomena of fintech and really connect myself, feedback, feed forward loop mechanism attached with that and what it can do, and maybe it can give birth to a fifth industrial revolution much sooner than what the third gave birth to the fourth one. Now, for me to be basira, for me to be insightful enough and listening to an expert technologist, a contributor like you, how do I know that when I use technology, let's say in only finance at this point of time, when I use technology, that how do I know that A, this is going to be innovative and not renovative? You see what I mean over here? And is the barometer of knowing a technology solution and it being innovative is that it must disrupt the three models that you've mentioned, the business operation, the customer experience, in an end-to-end manner, or there is some other barometer for me to judge that, yes, this is something new, this is innovation, or this is just not renovation?
The amazing thing about the fintech, it came to an industry that is very conservative in nature. And as we all know, the banking sector really resists change and very conservative. And you can tell from the, the amazing buildings that they have, the tradition and all that. So the fintechs came in and disrupt this by doing few things that has not been done before in the financial sector. First of all, they focused on data, and data became the strategic asset for fintechs. So they actually, the banking and the financial sector collected a lot of data, but as you know, they never really used it strategically as a strategic weapon to understand the behavior of the customer and understand how to deliver a specific service to that customer. I remember just 10 or 15 years ago, or 10 years ago actually, and probably some banks still doing it right until today, you look at segmentation and they tell you it's female, male, and are they over 40, under 40, whatever. So that even the segmentation is pretty general. Now, you actually can deliver a service to a specific person based on his behavior that is collected from his either previous purchasing, his social media behavior, or anything that's being collected about this person to understand this person and deliver that service customized to that person. That's the first one, is fintech focus on data as a strategic asset. The second one is it focused on dematerialization. I mean, the fintechs are actually dematerialize everything. And we're talking about like even the currency is dematerialized, the digital contracts, the smart contracts, everything is taking it from the material form to be dematerialized. Then they focused on demonetized. So basically money, the currency that we use today is no longer, and you know that the digital, almost all your payments today are digital, and you actually hardly ever use cash. I always say the example, when I go on vacation, I actually go for a couple of weeks with the family and I don't spend a single physical dollar or a British pound or a euro. It's all basically your card transaction. And actually it got even much more in the last 18 months. Then After demonetization, it focused on democratization. And democratization is an interesting concept because it allows you to access services without the middleman. So it like peer-to-peer payment, like crowdfunding, all those bureaucracies that we had before that was governing this space is actually, we moved to democratizing it, and you have the access to the service from the source, and you don't have to go through all these layers that we used to do. Of course, or if you look at all this, what's the most common thing in them? It's empowerment of the individual. You basically, as an individual, you are powered or empowered to do anything you want, access any service you want, compare services, make your own decisions based on amazing data. All this is the new world we're living in. So is it innovation or renovation? It's definitely amazing innovation. That's why I call it actually revolutionary, not even normal innovation. Renovation is what used to happen in and continue to happen in the traditional financial institutions, where they improve their operations, they automate certain operations, they do some digital transformation here and there. But the fintech and the way it took the world by storm and used the set of technologies from the fourth industrial revolution, like the cloud, like the mobility, artificial intelligence, blockchain, using all these different technologies to achieve the objectives I just talked about, is what I believe is the essence of innovation.
You know, guess what? And I have to be honest over here. It is already, we are into what, 10 to 15 minutes into the session, and it's already an education for me so many ways. Look, I mean, what I learned, I'm going to summarize, and I'm guessing audience would have learned even more, but a simple-minded guy like me, this is what I've learned. So the next time when somebody talks about to me about fintech, the following would straight away come in and ring the bells. First of all, data is now a strategic asset. Number two, dematerialization. Can I use the word decentralization as well? Just if it's the synergy between dematerialization and decentralization, is that all right?
You can use anything you want, Mughees. You're an inventor yourself too.
Oh my God, that's coming from you means a lot. Then you hit on a point of demonetization is another key aspect. I'm just telling you what I just, the knowledge plethora that just came, and my mind is trying to process information. So then you call democratization or democratization. It's from democracy, as a matter of fact. Where the essential element is that the middle party is removed, and the connectivity, in this case, let me use the financial jargons, between the surplus unit and the deficit unit becomes direct, right? This is what democratization means. So if all of these four elements are being served, data becoming a strategic asset, dematerialization/decentralization is happening in the financial sector, demonetization is happening, which so many ways is already there. We're not talking about crypto right now. This is demonetization other than crypto right now. And then on top of it is another phenomena, democratization. If all of these four things are observant in a financial environment, even in another environment, rest assured that there is disruption being caused by technology, and this disruption is necessarily innovative disruption, to say the least, and to an extent, innovative disruption that is revolutionizing the whole spectrum. Did I understand it right?
Yes, absolutely. Great summary. That's exactly what it is.
To be a teacher.
Thank you.
You have to be a teacher. Once you retire, let me know. I know a few prominent universities if you want a gig over there.
Sounds like a great retirement job. Absolutely.
It sure is. It sure is. Wow. So this is what we have. So this is what, and if all of this is happening, if all of this innovation leading to revolution happening in the financial sector through technology, that is called financial technology disruption or revolution, or /fintech. I actually understood it today, the way I summarized it. Thank you very much for that. And the clarity on innovation and renovation. So So if renovation does not necessarily obey these 4 domains, right? If I got it right from you, Kateeb?
Correct.
And renovation does not necessarily, because it's not going to follow all of these characteristics, is not going to lead you to any revolution.
Correct.
At best, it can make you think, I have to innovate, right? So, fantastic, fantastic. Where does Islamic finance fit into all of this?
Let's talk about two different things here, because we talked about the fourth industrial revolution, we talked about the fintechs. Of course, the natural thing to talk about is Islamic fintechs. But before we talk about Islamic fintechs, what is Islamic fintechs? Of course, it came from Islamic finance, just like the fintechs came from a conventional banking and conventional financial services. There is this unique financial subsystem or segment, and this segment is called Islamic finance. And of course, naturally, it should have an Islamic fintechs, and this is really what we have. So they're very parallel, actually. I would say a lot of people would argue that the Islamic finance was behind the conventional finance when it came to technology and whatever, but I disagree. I believe it depends on which bank you're talking about and which financial institution, because some of Islamic financial institutions were actually were as advanced as the conventional ones. But let's talk about Islamic finance, and let's address your question. Now, there is this amazing opportunity, and I'm going to talk about an opportunity out there that actually defines what Islamic finance is. We have a 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. That's a very large percentage when you're talking about, 7 billion people. 1.8 billion is a large percentage of the world.
Quite massive. It's almost 25%.
Yes. And then you have the average age of 24 years. And if we look at the Muslims with a higher growth than any other religions, we're looking at the youngest population. It's actually we have, if you look, okay, let's look at it differently. If we look at 34 years or younger, half the population of that segment are Muslims.
So it means you're saying that half of 1.8 billion is young population.
No, what I'm saying is if you look at the worldwide population and look at the segment of 34 years or younger for the whole population, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the young, I'm defining the young segment to be 34 years or younger.
It's young.
Half of that segment are Muslims.
Wow. All over the world. It's globally you're talking about.
Why? Because as you know, Europe and the US is an aging population. And our population, the Muslim population, is very young population, and we're very productive, if I may say. So actually, we have a very, very young population. And what is the one characteristic about the young population? They are highly tech savvy.
True that.
And that is why the Islamic fintech is an amazing opportunity for them. Let me give you more. If we look at the financial inclusion problem in the world, as I said, we have about 7.6 billion people worldwide. 1.7 billion, 1.7 billion are unbanked retail customers, right? 200 million potential micro, small, and medium businesses, what we call MSME, okay? If you look at the majority of the unbanked population is dominated by Muslims because of our countries being at the lower GDPs of the world. 50% of the world unbanked population is actually Muslims. So 50% of the people who are under 34 are Muslims. 50% of the unbanked populations are Muslims. The potential revenue to tap into just the SMEs or the micro and the SMEs is estimated to be $200 billion. So that today, the Islamic finance opportunity is just tremendous. We have about 2.2 trillion, if you look at the current status, 2.2 trillion dollars in Islamic finance, which is, by the way, it's very small compared to the global wealth. It's about 2-3%. We have, if you look at how it's divided, about 72% as actually sitting in the Islamic banking, 22% at Sukuk, 4+% in the Islamic funds, which is very low. It's about $900 billion, and only 1.1 in the insurance. But are these numbers growing? Yes. By 2024, it's forecasted to be 3.5 trillion, jumping from 2.2 trillion in less than in 3 years, basically, jumping from 2.2 trillion to 3.5 trillion dollars. So the opportunity of the Islamic finance. Let's talk about the account ownership in the financial service, because I'm trying to define the different parameters for you to see what's the opportunity of Islamic finance. We have, of course, the OIC is the Organization of Islamic Countries. In 2018, it stood at 40%, which is in account ownership. So 41% of the Muslims or the people who reside in Muslim countries actually have accounts. If you look at the developed countries, this is 92%. So look at the gap between 41% and 92%. And of course, this is different. Different countries have different numbers. If you look at a high populated country like Egypt, you get 23% only, which is very, very low. But you look at UAE in the GCC, or an example, or Qatar, or whatever, you find it in the 88, 90%. So we're talking about also, there's a huge dispersed gap between the different countries in the Muslim world. So, and then another comment, you find that the people who are not engaging in the financial sector because of religion are much, much higher in the Muslim countries than in other countries. So other countries.
What's the last submission? So you're saying that people who are not coming to Islamic finance because of the religious tag,
not the Islamic finance, to finance. We're talking about account ownership.
Okay,
right.
Cool. Yeah, to finance.
So people are actually not coming to finance because of religion is much higher in the Islamic finance population, in the Muslims population than actually in the other. I'll just give you one more point here on the opportunity side. The sovereign wealth fund of the Muslim countries is estimated around $3 trillion. Only 650 billion of it is actually in the Islamic finance, which is very, very, as you know, very, very low.
360 billion, huh? You said
650 billion out of the 3 trillion is around in actually in the sovereign wealth funds of the Muslim countries. Is on that, invested in Islamic finance. So what is Islamic finance? Why do people, you think, why Muslims, being 50% of the unbanked, why they don't open bank accounts? I'll tell you, they either lack of money. If you don't have money, you don't want a bank account. Lack of proper documentation. You don't have documentation to actually go to the bank and open an account. You are in a rural area or distance from the nearest financial institution. If you live in a village that you have to travel 2-3 hours to actually open a bank account, usually probably you would not open a bank account. Other family members may actually have a bank account, so you rely on them and say, I don't want a bank account. Lack of trust in the financial system is high in the Muslim countries. And then the point I talked about earlier, religious reasons. People are not banking or engaging in financial services because of religious reasons, and Muslims higher than others. That's where the fintechs become, it actually almost every single one of these 6, the fintechs address them and allow those people to engage in the financial services through empowering them through technology. And this is really a very quick overview of what Islamic finance is and the opportunity that we have in Islamic finance.
My God, Kateeb, what did you just do? Where was this side of you? I mean, in so many, like 10 other sessions when we were together. I've never seen this side of you before. Bravo.
You gave me an hour.
Bravo. I mean, look at the data, the key data points. You're a big data creator already over here. Key data points, population-wise, youth-wise, unbanked-wise, MSME-wise, the fact that why there are so many unbanked and the reason-wise, and how beautifully you have, you know, I mean, made fintech as a nucleus to all of this phenomena, as providing a silver bullet solution to all of these problems that you've just so beautifully. Did you know what you just do? You've actually squeezed an ocean into a small capsule, and all people need to do is to swallow it, and it's not a green or a red pill issue like in the movie Matrix. It's just one pill, and it is a silver bullet. I mean, I'm a fan. After the session, we are going to talk more after the phone. On the phone. Wow. So this is why fintech is much more important in the Islamic financial sector, because it brings Islamic finance to people who are religiously sitting at the back seat and not trying to enter the financial arena. So it can bring Islamic finance to them, so the religious solution is provided and the box is ticked. It sort of allows people, even though who may not have a religious zealousness, to get banked from an unbanked situation through a very transaction-free, user-friendly, fast, smarter way of bringing finance and banking to them. This is classic financial inclusion at the speed of knots. It also solves the remote area issue. It also solves the taken for granted issue, where if my mom or dad or my uncle or big brother has a bank account and a very active bank account, I can use and rely on theirs. Why do I need mine? But hang on, I'm from the tech-savvy millennials, and everything is on my palm top. And according to one Malaysian survey back a couple of years ago, I'm ready to pay an extra $10 if everything comes on my palm top, and I don't have to move a muscle. Why don't I just open an account? Wow. So, and then of course, lack of money does not remain an issue, because everything then you can even open up an account in 5 Riyal. It's so easy and it's so smart. And fast forward, much more enhanced once the model works and everybody has Islamic finance, nobody is, or less people are unbanked, more financial inclusion, etc., etc. You have a model of technology-driven Islamic finance, in this case, ready to serve the 200 billion vacuum of MSMEs. Did you ever talk to a Kuwaiti government or a Lebanese government on all of this? I mean,
I do believe. I can
bring you to the Iranian government if you're interested.
I do believe a lot of governments are aware of this. We're going to talk later about government. But I definitely think a lot of governments are aware of this. It's all about execution and having the national agenda to actually execute on the matter.
No, you see, I mean, this is, to me, and we've talked about this, before too. This to me is an ideal recipe, given this fintech, given this innovative fintech, given this revolutionizing fintech, an ideal opportunity to reassert the potency, the potential of Islamic finance, which it promised it will offer, the actual mandate of Islamic finance when it was rejuvenated back in the 60s experiment in Egypt. And what I right now, and we've discussed that this to me, fast forward, is a third time lucky opportunity where the pandemic situation, while it has done so many other messy stuff, it has also exposed the fragile underbelly of the current interspace financial system and how that system just needs one iota of internal or external disturbance, and Quran has referred to this as yamhak, the mahak of that financial system. And hence, in a technology-oriented world where COVID situation has catalyzed the reliance and usage of technology, I think this is a third time lucky opportunity to this time, not a 101 Islamic finance, but a technology-driven version 2 of Islamic finance has to be asserted, given what you've just mentioned. What do you think about that?
Exactly. It seems it always takes a crisis for Muslims to reevaluate what we have and re-examine the Islamic finance system. And as you said, we started with experimentations in the 60s and the 70s, and we kind of evolved slowly up to the 90s, and I would say until 2007. And there was some accelerations actually between 2000 and 2007. We saw a lot of Islamic investment companies come to existence, which sadly all disappeared during the financial crisis, or many of them disappeared because they were taking the money and investing it in the West in vehicles that are highly risky. Having a real estate asset doesn't mean, just a quick note on that, having a real estate asset proved in 2007, 2008 financial crisis that it's not always that risk-free because of the way they used to package these assets. But and then actually we had a lot of thinking about Islamic finance and how the Islamic finance, because it's an asset-based system, and it's not. There's no way for the Islamic finance to have more financial system or larger financial system than the physical world economic system, because you have to have, for every dollar you have in the Islamic finance is actually a representative of a dollar in the material or the physical world. In the West, it was crazy because it was like huge multiples in the financial world that doesn't have the physical assets or services that actually represented with these dollars. And that kind of created a lot of thinking. How is it the savior? And even in the West and the ethical, a lot of people who are interested in the ethical financial system start looking at the Islamic finance. But then we start losing momentum again because we're masters in copying and cutting and pasting. And instead of sticking to the spirit of Islamic finance and how Islamic finance is so different and so amazing in handling risk and sharing risk and doing a lot of great things, we actually start copying the conventional lines and figuring a way to make it Islamic, until a lot of people actually lost faith in Islamic banking and Islamic finance. So we did not really have the amazing promise of Islamic finance that we did not realize its potential, what we expecting to be its potential. And actually, a lot of people would tell you that even the Islamic finance growth start to slow down just before the COVID time. The last 2 years before COVID actually started to slow down in growth, and you're not having those double-digit growth anymore, but actually more of the single digit. And it's all because of the government sukuks and things like that, not really innovative products in the Islamic finance. Then COVID comes, and with the Islamic Fintech revolution, I mean, that's the only difference. I really say the third time is a charm. The only difference this time is we have a technology revolution happening that actually helping us to look at things differently. And anytime you have a revolution, a lot of new stars come up, a lot of old stars fall down, and the whole system changes. And actually, that is this is true about the fourth industrial revolution, because it created a lot of new stars, and a lot of companies who couldn't actually handle the new revolution left out. A lot of countries went down in rating where other countries came up. It's a huge discussion on the geopolitical and social and all that. That's not the what we need to be discussing here. But the technology revolution and having the Islamic fintech ecosystem give us this third opportunity. And we are living it right now, because we learned so much, as you know, in the last 18 months or 20 months now. And we needed to understand how to live in this new normal, this new world. What is Islamic finance and Islamic fintech's roles in this? So we have this third opportunity, and I'm hoping that we will do much better than the first two. And we actually, especially because it comes actually from the top down, so it's not from the down up, because you still have to do a lot of work on the macro level. You cannot have an amazing fintechs if you don't have a digital economy and digital infrastructure and people can actually access the internet. If it's very expensive to access the internet, you're not going to do your services on the internet, because if it's going to cost me $300 to have my internet connection in the house, that's basically, I'm not saving any money by going to fintechs. So there's a lot of work has to be done on the macro level, and a lot of work has to be done on the micro level. And if both worked and we realize the exciting time we are living in, I think we will have an amazing future for Islamic finance.
Fantastic recipe. And a couple of things, and for the audience consumption as well. And we already have a consensus on this, both of us. My basic worry, and I've shared this worry with you earlier as well, this is a huge and much more exciting opportunity, that even though people who do rely on path dependency may not be able to block this excitement, but one thing that may still undermine the potentials of this very revolutionizingly exciting times that we are living in. And for Islamic finance to rejoice and then embrace and deliver to this third time lucky opportunity in this exciting technology-oriented new normal times. Two things, Brother Kateeb, and you agree with me on this, that if we do not address right now and simultaneously, if not proactively or preemptively, I fear a third misfire of Islamic finance. I am being very honest. Two things are the following. Number one, we have to first make sure that we understand that apart from whatever you have mentioned and how fintech by nature is so revolutionizing because of the 4 or 5 items that it serves simultaneously, we have to understand that the second chapter of the things or the elements that made fintech as a disruption was the fact that when it started to implement itself into the financial solution sector, where it sort of not only decentralized, demonetized, or democratized the whole financial sector so that the middle party goes, the replacement of the middle party, of course, was done through technology, which of course reduced transaction costs so much. But the extra element that assured that this democratized model, which replaced the middle party, serves the purpose as expected for both the users, A and F, surplus and the deficit users. The financial model that was oriented by technology was a classic model of risk-sharing finance. This is the essence of Islamic finance. Look at P2P. You've mentioned P2P, you've mentioned crowdfunding, you've mentioned angel investing, and so on and so forth. These are those modes. Classic example is Silicon Valley these days going on. Not these days, it's over the last 30, 40 years. These are those modes that are at the base of it is using mudarabas or musharakas or venture capital, name it what you want to. But basically you call it social responsible, ethical, falan. I mean, you push my button on names, I can do another session on why we shouldn't call this that and why we shouldn't call this that. But at the base of it, you give them English nomenclatures, but at the base of it, they remain mudarabas and musharaka, classic profit-loss partnership sharing contracts. This is the essence of risk sharing. And hence my submission, and we have a huge consensus on this, and I'm so happy to know that. that there is more synergy, potential with fintech and Islamic banking and finance because of this model-based similarity, because both are relying on risk sharing to deliver financial solutions to both ends, surplus and the deficit side. And if this is understood, man, oh man, Path Solution, you have a bright future, because you're going to become extremely busy, because you're going to be serving risk sharing from a technology end to a financial system that is made for risk sharing, and eventually serve the actual potential of Islamic finance, which twice made, but who knows, third time lucky. What do you think about that?
I do agree. I think you got it 100% right, and I believe that even as we as the title of this session, talking about sustainability, and the whole world is moving towards sustainable world and all that. You take fintechs and what the fintechs trying to achieve, what's the world wants to achieve with sustainable world and sustainable, and a lot of that from and then you look at the characteristics of Islamic finance: asset-backed, ethical, risk-sharing, equitably, which you touched on, and also good governance. Islamic finance, you have the Sharia board, you have the country Sharia board in some countries, and I think it's more governance. The Islamic finance has more governance than any other conventional Islamic finance. So all these are actually play beautifully with the ESGs and
it's harmony. It's harmony in the making.
Absolutely, on the social, on the environment, and on the governance. Absolutely. So if you look at what Islamic finance aspire to what? Justice, empowerment of all stakeholders, ethical practices, social responsibility, all these beautiful things that everybody wants in their financial system and in their world. This is actually built as a part of the DNA of Islamic finance. One thing I really don't like is when people ask me the question about which part of Islamic finance can be support sustainability and this and that. I tell them, our Islamic finance is green all over. It is sustainable system. It is not really, we get caught into these arguments just like the conventional finance. Conventional finance has problems. It has really, really structural problems that actually contradict with sustainability. But when you look at Islamic finance, I challenge anybody to come up with anything in Islamic finance that actually contradicts with any of the SDGs that the UN, the 17 SDGs.
Bingo.
None of them.
Bingo.
I can map every single SDG from the UN, and I will see that where in the Islamic finance actually supports these SDGs.
You know what? I go to an extent to term SDGs as a downscaled version of the Islamic economic / halal economic system. It's a downscaled version, the SDGs, of the whole Islamic economic and financial system, because people, this is what, and I'm going to, it's part of our discussion later on, it's coming soon, that why we always miss the bus and become recipients rather than leaders. This is the issue with us, that our own stuff.
What you just said is exactly why. Because we always try to translate what we have to what other people have, instead of saying, no, we have it. It's there. You guys should actually copy what we have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then they just reprocess it, candy coat it with these mumbo jumbo, very gadgetry, charming names. Didn't I tell you, we were discussing it on phone? They have green finance, which is related equal to halal finance. They have a deep green finance, which is now related to halal tayyib finance. It's amazing. And my worry is that the deep green will catch up. Nobody will again talk about halal tayyib. So it's a sorry state. It's a sorry state. And I'm so in consonance with you, my brother. I'm so happy that, you're connecting the dot and so well, and then you can see the big picture and then also can craft the way to big picture. And I wish, some people who are at the key strategic positions in the world are privy and are looking at this session, that it's so insightful, is the findings, and I'm so elated that you have touched all the right points in a very simplistic manner that even a dumb guy like me is making sense of a lot of the things, and why Islamic finance is much more relevant to live the expectation of this exciting technology-driven new normal times as compared to the conventional finance. Because if the model is not in match, you can have financial crises that are going to be much more faster and much more prominent and much more far-ranging and far-reaching at a speed of light, because they will be now delivered through technology. So crisis now delivered to technology. This is so important. This is so important. Now, this looks very exciting. This looks very promising. But Kateeb, hang on. Before I think of even enjoying this whole recipe and try and taste this and have my taste buds fully enjoy the essence of this whole fintech driven Islamic finance third opportunity revolution recipe, I'm operating in a world that is already getting affected of climate change. My mind is, if not half, 30% diverted already, let alone enjoying the fruits of a Islamic finance driven fintech revolution, and all the UN SDGs are being served. Sustainability is being answered big time in a multipolar world, and financial inclusion, economic empowerment, everything is being delivered. On top of my head is climate change, and I'm being diverted. What am I going to do? What's the solution over here?
I have the solution.
Awesome. Awesome.
Regardless of what religion any of the people who are listening, and I'm hoping that we have a lot of non-Muslims listening to us, because I believe that the issue we are discussing is more of ethics and ethical finance than actually just a religious discussion. I do believe that COVID-19 was actually a response to the human being recklessness. We were so reckless with this earth or the planet of ours. Now, if you are a Muslim, you say God did it, Allah did it. And if you are a Christian, God, or Christ did it. Or if you are a Buddhist, whatever your ideology and whatever your religion is, you can, but it is actually a response of the way we have been treating the planet and treating our beautiful home. So in the last 20 months, COVID-19 taught us so many things. And I do believe that, as you know, if you've been following the stock market, the only stocks or companies that went up in the last 18 months is actually mostly technology. And if you look at the top companies over $1 trillion, the only companies that are valued over $1 trillion are like 4 or 5 companies that are actually technology companies, having Apple, even, and Microsoft cross the $2 trillion in valuation. Why is that? Because I do believe, and as a software engineer and technologist, I do believe that technology is the solution. We have not been addressing the climate change correctly, and we really need, just like we are using technology in fintechs and technology in business transformation and technology in this, and of course now we're doing an amazing job in healthcare, and even the production of vaccines lately was amazing because of technology. I think the climate change will be resolved by technology. And I do believe, and in addition to other trends that will help our climate change, because I think in the next 10 to 15 years, probably that even the Earth population will start declining. And that's a huge different discussion, which means that if the population peaks in 10, 15 years and then start declining, then basically the Earth will start getting healthier.
Breathe easy. Breathe easy. It's called breathe easy.
Exactly. But I do believe the technology is, and I'll tell you, it's happening all over the world. Amazing technologies. Of course, you have the Tesla. A lot of people have different opinions about the Tesla, but they actually did the electric car revolution. Now you hear about the plane revolution, but actually more technologies that you may not hear about, like the carbon capture technologies, where they capture the carbon, ship it somewhere to the North Sea and bury it, and it doesn't even actually make it to the atmosphere. The climate repair, where a lot of technologies are working on technologies to actually repair the damage that happened to our climate. And there is a few really interesting, in North Europe, there's some really interesting experimentations on things like greening the ocean. And again, a lot of debates on greening the ocean, but if you put more green in the ocean, then you basically can actually help the environment, because you fertilize the ocean and you encourage the growth of the plants, and then you absorb more CO2, et cetera, et cetera. Then you have, but in COVID-19, we learned about remote working. And there's a tremendous number of technologies, including the technology we're using today, like Zoom, like MS Teams, that allow you to remotely communicate and work. And guess what? That's less cars on the streets, less cars on the roads, and other technologies. I'm just gonna, I know we're running out of time, but I'm gonna go through a lot of them. Great use of data centers, because data centers use a lot of green technology. Actually, for example, Microsoft is burying their data centers in the ocean under the sea, so they keep it cool, so they're using less energy, versus you're using your laptop for all your processing at home. So the more you do processing on the cloud, the more you're helping your environment. The houses being more energy efficient and using more green energy. The ships are becoming hydrogen based on hydrogen cells, and that's much more environment friendly. Look at the food technologies on how to feed. You know, we know that the cows are responsible for a huge percentage of the actual the CO2 that goes into the atmosphere. And now they have technologies like they're feeding the cows seaweed, believe it or not, because they feel that they can actually cut the CO2 emissions by 80% if you do that. What they call delicious insects, where they feed the cows insects that also, it's a protein that does not generate as much. All that is great. Then you have the robotics. If you can focus on robotics and allow the robotics to plant trees, if you can plant 1 trillion trees in the world, you actually can get the earth to pre-industrial times. Think of this. This is crazy, right? But humans cannot do that. But if you have robotics that go around and just plant all these trees, you can actually fix the whole problem. And I believe more and more this is going to happen. And just final statement on this. I don't want to take too much time on this, but the role of government and policies and regulations is very critical in this area. Why? Because most of those environmental problems require collective action. To make it effectively address the problem. You cannot expect this to happen. So the governments have to, if you look at, I always give example of the state of California, where basically said by 2030, no more non-electric cars on the roads. So they gave them 10 years and it's happening. You go to California, a huge percentage are electric cars. So you need those push from the government and the regulation to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. I'm a very optimistic person, and I am very optimistic about the climate change issue. And I do believe it will resolve itself in the next 15 to 20 years, not resolve itself, but we will be able to resolve it using technology, and the issue hopefully will be resolved. This is my comments on that.
Kateeb, do you want to hear my comment? Please run in elections and go to the parliament. Run for an office, buddy.
Not my cup of tea, as they say. Absolutely not my cup of tea.
This is your cup of tea. You're crossing 50. This is exactly your cup of tea. Run for an office. Buddy, we need you over there. What are you doing here? Now, I mean, what a statement. So you said in a fourth industrial revolution, we can, by planting 1 trillion trees, we can go to pre-industrial revolution while staying in a fourth industrial revolution. Wow, that is interesting. Amazing. And it's past future. It's like time travel going on over here all of a sudden by planting 1 trillion trees. And you said that, robots can do that technology. Yeah, of course, I agree. And of course, this can perhaps send us into a Hollywood flick, which may Terminator 7, Terminator 8, who knows? But, this is one way to go forward. And did you not notice that the world saw the levels of global pollution drop down significantly because there was less humans on the roads?
Yeah.
It was less activity because of this lockdowns and curfews. And over the last almost 1.5 to 2 years, subdued human activity. Of course, unwantedly. I could see stuff in the sky at the nighttime that I never used to see before. I used to go to the terrace, and I never knew that I can on the sky of Oman I can see so many stars. I didn't know that. My kids were introduced to stars in the Corona nights, as a matter of fact, believe it or not. And you said that, technology has so many ways to provide solutions fighting climate change and global warming and letting the earth breathe easy. You've also mentioned to the phenomena which is now called as smart cities, orienting through a smart behavior. Beautiful, beautiful. But, and you were very right that, of course, in this Corona time, the most income earning or, the most, what do you call it? Profit generating industries have been the tech industry. They are also, now there's a new term called FANG, not the fang of a Dracula, but FANG of a, who knows they are, but I didn't say it. So, but at the same time, while they grew rapidly and there were quantum leaps in their money-making schemes and profiteering, of course, for all the right reasons, did you also notice that over the last 15 to 18 months, what other thing that I've noticed have rocketed is the amount and scope and scale of cybercrime. Did you notice that?
Yes, absolutely.
This brings me to the dark side of technology, which comes as a package. You cannot do away with that. This is the dark side we term is at cyber security risk. It's not a normal risk you're talking about. It's a risk that can, on just push of a single button, can cause mass scale damage, tangible and intangible. I can control a traffic signal from over here, and I can push one button, and the whole traffic system, the whole city will get disrupted. It'll cause havoc. So you're talking about fighting climate change. Let's try and stop people fighting each other due to frustration on the roads, on the streets. You see, it'll create a behavioral mess. It'll create a routine life mess. And I don't know if you, it brings me back. I'm so into Hollywood these days, and I connect dots, as a matter of fact. So it takes me back to a year-old movie, or maybe a 2 years old movie. In one of my journey to another country, I saw it. What I do is, on a long flight scale, I don't sleep, so I catch up on my Hollywood flicks. One of that Hollywood flick was this, it's a Mr. Bean starring movie. It's a British flick called Johnny English. Now, in this third part of Johnny English, this is exactly what has happened. One single entity / young, millennial is given control of the whole UK management, traffic lights, stuff like that. And because he had, of course, there is a lot of gadgetry and everything goes so smoothly because it's all technology operated, he then starts, he sort of, what's the word? He hijacks the whole system and then sort of blackmails governments that with push of a button, this is what I can do, and the whole system gets jammed or blocked. This is the dark side. And you don't need to have a human interference. What just happened a few days ago in the London airport, Heathrow, the very famous Heathrow. I had read, and I even saw videos where queues starting from the immigration counter were so long that it went to the airplane stairs. And people who are stuck in the airplane is not allowed to come out because of the intense queues. That was not man-made. That were system errors. Just for 90 odd minutes, it just jammed the activity of Heathrow. Heathrow is one of the prominent, very, state-of-the-art airport. People, other airports try and follow it. That's the dark side we are talking about, cybersecurity. What are you going to do about that? You're just fighting climate change. Hang on, there is cybersecurity. Risk management is not used to cybersecurity, by the way.
Yes, I do believe cybersecurity is a huge issue because of all these technologies, but actually the problem is even worse because you didn't even talk about artificial intelligence and
there you go. Yeah, didn't want
the dark
to.
side.
Didn't want to.
I don't think we have the time, but cybersecurity, I was very surprised how late the governments of the world took to realize the importance of actually working together. I don't know if you've been following the news, but in the last year, there has been a lot of movements on cybersecurity where the US is talking to Russia and talking to China, and they're talking to Europe, and basically they're coming with all these discussions to come up with a way to actually control what is going on. Just 2 weeks ago, the White House invited all the CEOs of the technology companies just to do a workshop on cybersecurity. A lot of this is happening, a lot of movements, and because I'm interested in the subject, I do follow up the news on that, and I assure you, I feel exactly what you said. COVID probably in the last 20 months exposed this because much more cyber security issues because a lot of people got online that they were not online. We saw a spike in all the banks' online channels. We saw people using more mobile banking, more internet banking, and of course this opens and in addition, that's the customers. Then you got all the banking employees and the fintech employees and the techfin employees are actually working from homes and have to access these environments remotely, which also you have to open up your environment. So in the old days, just 2 years ago, a lot of banks decided, you know what, I'm not going to open it. I'm going to just open a little window and not let a lot of people in. And I'm going to be very, very rigid about how you get in. Move forward 20 months. If you do that, you're out of business. You cannot do this. You have to open it wide open. You have to allow all your customers to get in. You have to allow all your staff to get in. And you have to introduce tremendous security solutions. I do believe that we woke up finally, and I think the experience in the last 20 months shook up the whole system. I believe it's from the presidents and the head of the countries down to the ministers. All are very aware and alerted to, because this became a national security issue. And we saw what happened in the US when whoever hacked into all these systems in the US and got into a lot of industries, even got into the Pentagon and got into other government departments. So this became a serious issue. It is on the table. It is the good news. It is on the table. It is on the top priority list of every CIO/CEO of any organization, not only banks, but any organization. Whenever you talk to anybody, the risk department in the organization, in the bank, is very aware, and they give you all these questionnaires about what are you doing here and what are you doing that as a vendor or whatever. So it is top priority. It's being discussed. I do believe there are solutions. There are holes in those solutions that we have to figure out and find and plug those holes as fast as possible. And but we cannot let this stop us. We cannot say, oh, we have a problem with cybersecurity. We better stop evolving and inventing and all this. No, we cannot stop innovation. We have to continue to push and find these issues and fix them and just keep moving forward. This is my belief on this.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that, Allah has given me a chance to be a part of this session, because this has been an education. You've introduced fintech, you've clarified fintech, you have informed us that what is fintech catering innovation and revolution, then just fintech or something that looks fintech, but it's of digitization or renovation. And you have told us that what's the barometer, what are those criteria to bifurcate and be thought process clear to judge a fintech innovation versus a, tech fin or renovation and stuff like that. And how beautifully you've put the whole perspective in with data points into the picture, and then brought in the importance of Islamic finance, and then the further importance of fintech-driven Islamic finance, and the solutions for climate change. This has been a absolute tarbiyah and education, at least for one, Kateeb, and Mubarak, congratulations to you on that. But guess what? This beautiful recipe that you talk about, two things. If you don't run for elections, it'll be zulm. Number two, buddy, this is a common phenomena. If you don't have a political will backing it, if you don't have the right HR or human capital, and guess what? If you don't media project it, frame it, or lobby well for it, you're back to square one. At best, you'll have an impeded version / a misfire, if not a full misfire. You're on mute.
I believe, final thought on this, Mughees. Thank you very much for your kind words. The digital revolution, here's the problem with the digital revolution that we're living in. If we ride the wave and we do well, it can actually change a lot of countries and a lot of human lives, and it can actually change the humanity. But some countries, if they don't manage it well, it actually can increase the gap, let's put it this way, increase the gap between the wealthy and the poor. It is a lot of people looking at it as, financial inclusion, decreasing the gap, getting the people more involved in the financial sector. But what I have noticed in the last few years, because we have not really executed well so far, it actually is increasing that gap instead of decreasing that gap. That's on the individual, on the, let's say, segments, the population segments. On the country level, any country who's going to miss this revolution is going to go in a deep sleep, because this is a revolution where you cannot miss. You cannot say as a country, I'm not going to be a player and I'm just going to sit and watch until to see what's going to happen. So this is an amazing opportunity for us to become, as you said, contributors, to come in, to be a major players in the revolution. But if we mismanage it, the cost is going to be extremely, extremely high. And I hope we don't do that. I hope we actually do all the right moves to be a major player and a major contributor in the outcome of this revolution.
And lobby for it, market it, brand it smartly. This is the most important factor that is going to take the ship forward to the shores, the commerce shores that we desire. I mean, what a brilliant, the whole session was like listening to a cacophony or a symphony of beautiful ideas, that has been put into a capsule for a guy like me to swallow, and without water, take it into digestive system and let it mushroom out and branch it out to the brain power capacity and increase it. So blessed, so honored. Beautiful. I mean, guess what? Vote for Kateeb. Vote for Kateeb. You have to.
Thank you, brother.
You have to start. Get a successor ready in Path Solutions. A beautiful entity. You're going to be a lot more busier Path Solution. But guess what? He's going to Parliament. I would pray for that too. So folks, I mean, are there any questions to our beautiful presenter? I mean, this is amazing. Questions? I would want that. You don't want to miss this opportunity. This guy is a freak. Question? I think you've been so clear. And at least for me, I've been taken aback with the information and knowledge download that I had. So there are no questions. I think we were very, very clear. He was so eloquent, you know, I mean, it was an education journey for me. Guess what? I am, you know, very safe to say that I am much better off, 90 minutes, post these 90 minutes than what I was pre these 90 odd minutes. So thank you very much, Kateeb, for this beautiful journey of almost 90 minutes. I mean, 80 odd minutes that we were together. I wish and pray that, you know, I mean, we synergize further, we contribute further, we keep on creating this mass awareness further in both tangible and intangible manners, and take the industry to the desired levels where its actual promise is. Where its actual promise is. And guess what? All you need is few good Kateeb, few good men, not an army of people, not an army of thinkers, few good thinkers to revolutionize within the fourth industrial revolution and take us to a prehistoric level with a trillion trees. This is time travel going on already. So cool, so cool. I'm so blessed, so honored. Oh, what a session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it was indeed a pleasure. It's so unlucky if you have missed this session, but guess what? There are recordings available. I believe it's going live on social media, YouTube or Facebook and social media, all the bigger social media outlets. And I do believe that the recordings would be available to, at least to me. I request an advance recording for myself. I don't want to miss it out. Kateeb, I would be using some portions of your, your skilled world of wisdom in my upcoming talks, with your permission, brother.
Feel free,
right?
and
definitely
thank you very much, brother Mughees. It's always amazing to have a moderator who can understand the issues and moderate very, very well. And I really enjoyed the session. So thank you for the opportunity.
I will do campaign for you. I will do your campaign. At least from Oman via social media, I'm guessing. All right, guys, here's signing off. I mean, that was such a pleasure. I hope that you have learned. And like me, you are much better off post 90 minutes than pre 90 minutes of this session. So I look forward to seeing you again. Please keep me and Kateeb in your prayers. Keep yourself safe and sound. Sleep well, eat well, exercise, and our connection to the spiritual levels has to be further enhanced if we want to contribute the way that we have desired. Thank you very much. And may Allah keep all of us safe. Ma salama.